this lesson of the tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and use the Transpose master to go ahead and pose our mesh here. And it's just under your plugin menu. And this just basically turns everything down to its lowest subdivision level. And as you can see, I froze a little bit there, but that's okay. And you just simply, control click and drag on the mesh to the part that you want to go ahead and mask out so that you can move it. And I'm just gonna try and block out a pose that I like, that I think is funny, or that I think adds a little bit of character to the character mesh here. And since he has, 6 and 7 tentacles, it's just, it's going to take a little bit of time to go ahead and pose the mesh. And since the body is one mesh and the eye is basically one mesh, we don't really have to worry about, making sure the eye is going to move properly, whenever I go to go ahead and transpose the mesh here. If it was made up of, a bunch of different parts, say, a bipedal character, then yeah, I would have to, control drag and then shift drag back to make sure that it highlights the other pieces of the mesh. But since the body mesh here is just simply one mesh, I really don't have to worry about that. Part 2 of this tutorial will be painting the character. But our main focus for right now is, getting the sculpt finished and getting them posed. Because we can always paint it after it's posed. And I try to do the posing on the mesh at a time in the mesh's, say, history, whenever it's, not a fully detailed character. This way I can, still add detail later on, if needed, once I pose it. Because posing is sort of gonna, I don't want to say eliminate some of the detail, it'll just open up some freedom or open up some areas that, you say to yourself, well, hey, this doesn't look proper and it doesn't have the right details. So once we pose the mesh, if I have to sculpt it, then that's fine. I just try to keep it a low enough, say, subdivision level, so that whenever I do pose it, it doesn't sort of cause a headache in terms of folding on the mesh and sort of like mesh weird dots. You know what I mean? So we just try to pose it at a time in the mesh's history that it's still sort of low, but not crazy high. And it's going to be easier to pose it on a lower geometry count than it would be on a higher geometry count. Since we're not really using Maya right now to our 3D application to go ahead and rig the model, we can go ahead and just simply pose it now, sort of quickly. And the transpose tool in ZBrush is excellent. It allows you to basically block out a pose that is real quick. It does a fairly decent job. It's not going to give you a 100% accurate, pose in this, because it's not an actual rig, a jointed rig that you would see in your 3D applications. Yeah, it can do a great job, but it's never going to be as good as a joint rig. So you just constantly have to, try and refine the meshes as needed, and try and move it, the way that you want. And it's just, a mix between, say, blurring your mask and drawing your mask correctly, and just try to pose it the way that you want. And I'm constantly just, adjusting my mask, adjusting my pose, and trying to make sure that there's no real, blurring in the mesh or stretching in the mesh. Characters definitely do look better, when you render them if they are posed. Um, I don't want to say you don't really want to do a character that's so standard every single time, or anytime you do a character. You definitely want to try to add life into the character. And as you can see, I'm just pressing the T pose, sub T, and this will, keep the pose on the mesh, but then take it back up to the highest subdivision level that we had. And there you go, we have a transposed character. And then, like I said, once I've posed the character, I'll go ahead and add some more sculpting detail to the mesh. And I'm just constantly looking around here to, trying to add detail to where the leg is, that I have bent the leg, so I'm just trying to add some wrinkles there. I'm just simply doing that with the standard brush on a lower intensity. And overall right now, I mean, the character mesh here looks pretty good. It definitely needs a little bit more in terms of, detail and maybe an alpha on the entire character body. We'll just see how it goes. And I'm just, constantly trying to add a little bit more detail in terms of, where I want to have some wrinkles and just constantly trying to adjust the mesh. And trying to figure out, you know, what works here or what doesn't work. The key is, you know, constantly refining the shape that you have and constantly adjusting parts of the mesh to make your overall end product, you know, really nice. But as you can see, you know, I tend to use the standard brush a lot. The same with the clay brush, the smooth brush, and the Damien standard brush. There are definitely a lot of options in ZBrush in terms of, you know, how many brushes you have and what does what, but usually the standard brush and, you know, the clay brush, the inflate brush, and the Damien standard brush are really, you know, all you need. I'm trying to adjust the eyelid here to get a pose in here that's on the eye that's, you know, gonna look okay. And I'm constantly looking over the mesh and seeing if there are any, you know, troublesome areas or any troublesome spots. Maybe put my initials on here, but, you know, I don't know if I should really do that. Definitely not on the side of the head. I'll put it on the bottom here, just so that, you know, people can't take credit for my work. That's the only reason I did that.